Greetings everyone, my name is Zetterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Make a Good Mega Man Level Contest 2, or Magmal 2 for short. During the last part, I continued my journey further into the Wily Star II by completing the second and third stages, those being Classic Castle and Lever Oriental Enchanted. So in this part, I'll be completing Wily Stage 4, Inner Sanctum, and gosh, this became one of the most infamous levels in the entire contest, for several reasons that I will get into. So we start off with all of our special weapons and utilities unlocked. But once we slide into this colored sparkle, all of our special weapons outside the Mega Buster and Hornet Chaser are disabled. We do have infinite Hornet Chaser energy though, and the Hornets tear through all the Take Tentos. And there's the first of 5 Noble Nickels scattered throughout this stage. This is one of 2 Wily Fortress stages that actually have Noble Nickels. The other one being the next one, Wily 5, which I will cover in the next part. The blue sparkle there forces us to use only the Mega Buster. The colored sparkles correspond to each of the colors of each of the special weapons. So now we have to climb up this tower. Unlike Mega Man Maker, having this many gyros on screen doesn't just lag the game to a crawl. And now we moved on to the Sakugane segment. See all those electrified floors and walls? Those all used to be spikes in the original version of the stage before it was heavily nerfed. Now these deal only 7 points of damage on contact. And what makes this segment a bit easier is the fact that the Sakugane only has 2 set heights, normal hops and tall hops. And now we have 3 choices of where to go to next. Let's take the upper route first. For this route, we only have access to the Slash Claw. Even though it says we have access to the Mega Buster, that's actually disabled. Really, it should say Life over there. And yet, I died over here because I didn't hold left enough on the controller. At the very least, at the start of every new special weapons section, there's a checkpoint. Really, that's the main gimmick of this stage. Different sections dedicated to different special weapons and their pros and cons. Like we saw with the Hornet Chaser, Mega Buster, and Sakugane, now we're seeing it with usage of the Slash Claw. It's even better utilized over here because it pierces through all the shielded enemies. In fact, I think these enemies were modified to be even more vulnerable to the Slash Claw. Just demonstrating the fact that the shields are actually solid and don't hurt you. Normally it'd take actually 2 Slash Claw slashes in order to destroy the Sniper Joes, but here it's only 1 shot. Just damage boosting through that segment so I don't accidentally nick myself against the spikes. At least these Dachones aren't completely defenseless. Having to use the Slash Claw on them does make it a bit more challenging. I forget which game this mini-boss comes from. I think it comes from Yamada Man's stage from Mega Man 6. And now we just slash through all these junk blocks. So far the stage isn't too bad, but it'll get worse. And here we gain access to a key fragment. You need all 3 of them in order to open up this key door, and don't you worry, they are saved between checkpoints. Now, if you don't want to gain access to this Noble Nickel, just go travel to the right and proceed onwards with the stage. But of course, I do want the Noble Nickel, so I'm going back over here. This takes me back to this checkpoint, and now I can take the other 2 split pathways. So for a speedrunner, or for a normal player who doesn't want the Noble Nickels during this playthrough, they can pick one pathway which they like and then proceed onwards with the stage normally. But for more skilled players, they'll have to complete all the other 3 pathways, which is a nice way of handling Noble Nickel collection. And for this section, you're supposed to navigate through the spike corridor using the rush jet, which I failed at immediately here. And there's no way to slow down the rush jet like in Mega Man Maker. There are arrows in the background to indicate where you should be going next, though. More than a few tight squeezes over here. Unlucky to get through that segment unscathed. And there's a second key fragment. Now to go through the third and final section. Out of the 3 split pathways here, I'd say that the rush jet segment is the most difficult one. This pathway is the wheel cutter one. You just need to be careful here not to embed yourself on the ceiling or floor spikes. Just pay attention to what's going on, not like what I did over here. Out of the 7 Wily Star II stages, this is easily the hardest one, and my least favorite one. We are not in the most difficult part of the stage yet. That's upcoming. Didn't mean to go climb that far up. But as I said, if you don't want to go to this segment, you can just bypass it and go on throughout the stage. Really, the main difficulty of this section depends on how skilled you are with climbing up walls using the wheel cutter. And there we have it. Now time for the final one. Use the wheel cutter there in order to slow down your descent and get a better vantage point. And there's our second noble nickel. The rest of them are a lot easier to get. Now this section. This is one of the main reasons why this stage got so infamous. All of these used to be spikes, and due to some of the engine peculiarities with the super arrow and how it worked, how it could shunt you a few pixels forward or you could fall off if you didn't stand enough on the super arrow, players died a lot over here. Like here, for example. And that was my bad. I thought I would switch over to the super arrow, but of course, we switch over to the Mega Buster even though it's locked. It doesn't work the same way as it does in Mega Man Maker. Now just imagine this section. I got hit by the wall at least once or twice there. In the original version, those would be spikes, so it would be instant death. You can see where all the frustration would come from then. Plus, it requires some rather precise super arrow maneuvers, something of which many players may have not used in the game. Thankfully, the Skull Helmet now protects me against one-shotting, so that's nice. Plus, I do have E-Tanks, which I will use immediately. And now you fight Gravity Man, whose weakness here is the super arrow. Depending on what orientation you finish this fight on, you'll gain access to one of two sections. Which I'm trying to do over here. There we go. I wanted to end the fight on the ceiling. Taking the upper route grants me access to the Jewel Satellite segment. If I finished the Gravity Man fight and I was on the ground, I would gain access to a wire adapter segment. And that was me not paying attention. This section also used to be a lot worse. It used to have a lot more spikes. Not the best place to put a checkpoint there. And for some reason, Tellies infinitely spawn over here. Well, that also means that you can damage boost through some of the spikes if you really want to. Some blind falls over here, unfortunately. They aren't exactly telegraphed where spikes are going to be, so it's a minus for this level. And here's where the two pathways link up with each other. And now you gain access to almost all the special weapons outside the wire adapter and the rush utilities. Now a major warning over here. Do not enter the top boss gates until you explore these other teleporters, as that's a point of no return, unless you don't want to gain access to 2 of the noble nickels. Now for this section, you do not want to hit any of the grey grab blaster blocks over here, otherwise it'll block the pathway over to the noble nickel. However, if you leave and re-enter the room, it resets it, and these green tellies are only destroyable by the grab buster. And now a similar situation with this section. You do not want to destroy these cardboard bombs, as it'll block the pathway to the noble nickel. We need some precise aiming here, or rather a little bit more precise aiming. Not quite there. There we go. I need to do a tap jump over there and spawn it that way. A bit too close over there. But you can try to segment as many times as you want until you succeed. A little bit too high over there. And you can quick weapon switch in order to despawn the triple blades if you want. It's a matter of positioning and timing, which I'm failing at, more on the former. There we go. Not sure why there's a wall of spikes on the left. I want to repeat this statement. Do not enter the upper boss shutters until you collect the 2 noble nickels, as that's the point of no return. And the only way to access that is by using the super arrow. And overall, I'd say that the second noble nickel is the hardest one to get. The third, fourth, and fifth are the easiest ones, especially the fifth if you pay attention. So now we're in the fifth and final section of this stage, this ride chaser segment, or wave bike segment, I mean. Make sure to jump onto the platforms over here, and you'll gain access to the fifth and final noble nickel. Unlike the rush test segment, you can actually slow down the wave bike by holding down the opposite direction on your controller or keyboard. Another main complaint about this stage, the difficulty curve is not uniform. It doesn't gradually increase, it's all over the place, it's uneven. The second section where we got the second noble nickel, that was easily the hardest part of the stage. And the super arrow segment, especially pre-nerf, was easily the hardest part of the stage. I've seen players die dozens of times over there before succeeding, and it completely wrecks the difficulty progression of the Wily Star itself. It's much harder than Wily Stage 5. Because of all those issues, this is my least favorite Wily Star II stage of them all. But alas, we're at the end of the stage. In fact, we're coming up to my second favorite Wily Star II fortress boss, Auto Bounce. Auto Bounce's weakness varies. It's completely immune against the Mega Buster, meaning that this is one of the 2 bosses in the entire game that forces usage of special weapons. In this case, use the special weapon that it's using, or the one that currently matches its face. Like before it's the wheel cutter, now it's the slash claw. Next up is a super arrow. There are 8 forms in total. Now I have the grab buster. By the way, if you get hit by one of the grab buster shots, it can heal itself. What form it chooses next is randomized though. Now triple blade. I do like the triple blade mustache over there. Now the Sakugarne, which is the hardest one to hit, I would say. As auto bounce loses more and more health, it gets faster and faster with the bouncing. Next up is the Jewel Satellite one, although it fires Gemini lasers for some reason. Now for the last phase, it's weak to Super Arrow. And there we have it. That was the end of Auto Bounce and Wily Stage 4. It's quite a contrast in comparison with the rest of the stage. Whereas this Wily stage is my least favorite of the bunch, this boss fight is the second favorite out of the bunch. And this boss fight used to be harder as well. In the Grab Buster form, it used to actually fire one other Grab Buster shot, and if it rammed into you while it was in its Grab Buster form, it'd heal extra health. Now, I do like the underlying ideas of this stage, those being the usage of special weapons in specially designed segments to showcase their pros and cons, but the execution, that's where it falters on. If this was a Mega Man Maker stage, this would be a challenge/special weapons oriented stage, but not everyone likes playing through challenge levels, especially mandatory ones. This, combined with the stage's other issues, are what made it rather infamous. There is a post-game level, Hardcore Parker, which I feel executes on the challenges focused on special weapons a lot better. So in the next part, I'll be traveling into Wily Stage 5, the Unobtainium Mines. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!